Welcome back to another deep dive. Today we're looking into a story that you sent to us about Rosa Ortega,
Oh, yeah.
a woman in Texas who was sentenced to prison for voter fraud.
Right.
Our source material is an opinion piece from Next News Network,
Okay.
presented by Gary Franchi. Now you know the basics because you sent this in.
Yeah.
But the thing that really caught my eye was Rosa's claim that she didn't know she was breaking the law when she voted.
Yeah, that's an interesting one for sure. I mean,
Yeah.
we're talking about somebody who voted in 5 different elections over a decade,
Right.
using stolen Social Security numbers and even fake IDs to get jobs.
She even voted twice in recent Dallas County elections,
Wow.
just in Dallas County alone.
Yeah.
And yet her defense hinges on not understanding the distinction between citizens and residents when it comes to voting rights.
Well, that's a point worth exploring, I think, because what does it actually mean to be a resident versus a citizen under U.S. law?
Right.
I mean, it's not always as straightforward as it seems.
Exactly. And you can bet that a news outlet like Next News Network, known for its strong opinions, has a very particular take on all of this.
Oh, absolutely. Their presenter, Gary Franchi, doesn't mince words. He sees this as a blatant case of breaking the law, and he even challenges Rosa directly, asking her how many people she might have disadvantaged by coming to the U.S. illegally.
He even goes as far as to say that her case is, quote, more proof of voter fraud in the country.
Yeah,
Now, whether or not you agree with Franchi, his perspective definitely adds another layer to this whole story.
for sure. What's so fascinating to me here is we're dealing with someone who took quite elaborate steps to vote,
Yeah,
and yet she claims ignorance of the law.
right.
It raises questions about how someone could be so determined to participate in the electoral process
Right.
while seemingly unaware of the legal boundaries.
It's almost like there's a disconnect between her actions and her understanding of the consequences.
Yeah,
And this is precisely why I find these deep dives so intriguing.
yeah,
We start with what seems like a simple story,
right.
but the more we dig,
Yeah.
the more complexities emerge.
It makes you wonder what other factors might be at play here. Could there be cultural or linguistic barriers that contributed to Rosa's misunderstanding of the law?
Hmm.
Or are we looking at a deliberate attempt to exploit loopholes in the system?
And let's not forget the role of Next News Network in shaping this narrative. I mean, we're getting their very specific take on the situation.
Right.
And it's important to consider how their political leanings might be influencing the story they're telling.
It's a reminder that every story has multiple sides,
Yeah.
and it's crucial to seek out diverse perspectives to get a fuller picture.
So as we delve deeper into this case, let's keep in mind the complexities surrounding citizenship, residency, and the legal implications of voting.
And let's also consider the human element, Rosa's motivations, her understanding of the situation, and the impact this case has had on her life.
Right.
Yeah.
It's interesting how Franchi frames Rosa's case as, quote, proof of voter fraud, playing into a larger narrative that we hear a lot, especially from certain political corners.
Yeah, it's in these moments where I think we need to be extra careful and ask ourselves, like,
Right.
is this a truly representative case of widespread voter fraud, or is it more nuanced than that?
Mm-hmm.
Is it possible that Rosa's situation, while serious, is an isolated incident
Right.
fueled by a genuine misunderstanding of the complexities of the law?
We've touched upon the difference between resident and citizen,
Right.
but I think it's worth digging a little deeper. What are the specific legal distinctions that might have tripped Rosa up?
Well, the U.S. legal system, particularly regarding immigration and voting rights, is incredibly complex.
Right.
I mean, even native-born citizens sometimes struggle to fully grasp all the intricacies.
Right.
So imagine the challenges someone like Rosa might face.
Yeah.
There are layers of federal and state laws,
Okay.
different types of visas and residency permits,
Uh-huh.
and a whole host of regulations that govern who can vote and under what circumstances.
It makes you wonder if there were resources available to her, information that could have clarified her situation and prevented this whole ordeal.
That's a really important point. Access to accurate and accessible legal information is crucial,
Yeah.
especially for individuals navigating a system as complex as ours.
Right.
It raises questions about the role of language barriers,
Yeah.
cultural differences,
Mm-hmm.
and even systemic biases that might prevent people from fully understanding their rights and responsibilities.
And if we consider Franchi's perspective,
Yeah,
he seems to be coming from a place where the rules are clear-cut. He doesn't seem to acknowledge the possibility of a genuine lack of understanding on Rosa's part.
that's right. And it highlights, I think, a key challenge we face in these discussions.
Yeah.
How do we balance the need for a robust legal system
Right.
with the understanding that individuals, especially those from different backgrounds or facing challenging circumstances, may not always navigate it perfectly?
It seems like a delicate balancing act between upholding the law and ensuring fairness and understanding in its application.
Exactly. And this is why it's so crucial to engage with diverse sources of information.
Right.
I mean, Next News Network presents a specific narrative,
Uh-huh.
but it's important to seek out other perspectives.
Yeah.
How do legal experts view this case?
Right.
What about immigrant rights advocates?
Hmm.
Are there stories of other individuals who have faced similar challenges?
I think you've hit the nail on the head. This deep dive has revealed a story that goes far beyond the initial headlines.
Yeah,
It's a story that forces us to grapple with the complexities of immigration, the intricacies of our legal system,
right.
and the importance of critical thinking in a world where information, especially from sources with strong agendas, can be so readily consumed and disseminated. It feels like we've only just scratched the surface here.
Yeah,
This single story about Rosa Ortega has opened up so many questions about the systems we live with
right.
and how they impact individual lives.
It really has. And that's one of the things I find so fascinating about these deep dives.
Hmm.
We start with a specific case, a news story, something that you brought to the table,
Yeah.
and suddenly we're exploring these huge topics like the intricacies of immigration law,
Yeah.
the challenges of accessing legal information, and even the role of the media in shaping public perception.
The thing that really got me was the idea that someone could be so motivated to participate in our democracy,
Right.
to vote in multiple elections over a decade,
Yeah.
and yet simultaneously misunderstand the fundamental rules of the game.
Right.
It speaks to a disconnect that I think deserves more attention.
It does, and it highlights the danger of assuming that everyone has equal access to information and understanding.
Right.
I think we often take for granted that certain things are, quote, common knowledge,
Yeah.
but the reality is much more complex. People's experiences, their backgrounds,
Uh-huh.
and even the sources of information they trust
Right.
can vary dramatically.
So where do we go from here? What can we take away from this deep dive into Rosa Ortega's story?
Well, I think one of the biggest takeaways is just a reminder to be critical consumers of information.
Yeah.
We need to be aware of the biases inherent in any news source, seek out diverse perspectives, and approach these complex issues with a healthy dose of skepticism and open-mindedness.
It's easy to get swept up in the emotions of a story,
Oh, yeah,
to see things as black and white, right or wrong.
for sure.
But the reality is much more nuanced with shades of gray that we need to acknowledge and explore.
Absolutely. And that's where I think you, as someone who actively seeks out information
Right.
and engages in these deep dives, have a real advantage.
Mm.
You're developing the skills to look beyond the surface, to question assumptions,
Yeah.
and to appreciate the complexities of the world around us.
It's not about having all the answers,
No.
but rather having the right questions.
Right.
This deep dive has given us a lot to think about, and I really encourage you to continue the exploration.
I agree.
What other resources might shed light on the issues we've discussed?
Yeah.
What are the different perspectives on voter fraud, immigration, or media bias?
There's a whole world of information out there waiting to be discovered.
Right.
And it's through this process of continuous learning and critical engagement that we can become more informed and thoughtful citizens.
Well, thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Yeah, thanks for sending this in.
We'll be back soon with another fascinating topic, ready to explore its hidden layers and challenge our understanding of the world.
Looking forward to it.
Until then, happy exploring.